Hey, how y'all doing out there in YouTube land? This Stiletto coming at you from the Wild Wild West. Today, we're gonna do a disassembly. Disassembly on my new Hold Out 1 XL plain edge. This is the one that's in my box. This is the one I'm gonna be carrying. And I'm gonna carry one of these. And it works perfect. Nothing's wrong with it. This knife is perfect. It is perfect. Absolutely love these. Highly recommend these. If you can get one of these, I recommend it. These are absolutely perfect. Centers up perfectly every time. It's nice and sharp. I love these new scales. The new scales, I love these new scales. GSM Cold Steel, you guys got this one right. I even like the labeling. I've heard people say they don't like the labeling, but I like the labeling. I think it looks nice. Very well done. Very well done. Anyway, let's go ahead and pop this one open. Let's pop it open and see what's on the inside. Starting off with a T6 here. Nice big screws. Not little dinky screws. These are big, healthy, thick, strong looking screws. Absolutely love these knives though. The holdouts have always been one of my favorites. I wish GSM Cold Steel would have made the holdout 2 though, the one with the 4-inch blade. I don't know why they didn't make that one. They made the one with the 3-inch blade. I love all three of them. I think all three of them are great knives, but the one I probably carried the most was the one with the 4-inch blade. These already got a pretty good little amount of Loctite on them. I may not even need to re-Loctite them. Yeah, it's still got a nice little piece of Loctite on them. This is a T10. Craftsman T10. That's got a lot of Loctite on it. All these 3 screws, the 3 body screws, are all the same size, it looks like. Okay, let's see if we can pop it open. This is the fun part. Especially when you got a new knife that's never been opened up before. They're always really hard to get open. Let's take some pressure off the blade, off this section here. There we go. That wasn't too bad. Okay, now you guys can see what it looks like on the inside. This is aluminum backspacer. This is 6061 heat treated aluminum. Stainless steel lock bar. Bronze phosphor washer, and it should have a Teflon washer underneath that sits next to the blade, in between the bronze phosphor washer and the blade tang. Go ahead and pull it apart. Teflon washer. Bronze phosphor washer. This washer looks good. I'm not going to do anything to that washer. It looks good. It's not tarnished. The only time I mess with them is when they get tarnished. That's when it'll slow down your knife a little bit. These look pretty good. Good to go. Bronze phosphor bronze washers. Well made looking knife. I always like to look at the parts, see if I can see any burrs. This is actually really nice. I don't feel any burrs. It's a really nice piece. Well, just from taking this apart and looking at it, I could tell they did an excellent job. Look at that blade tin. Look how clean it looks. I'm talking about grime-wise. You don't see a bunch of grime marks. Lots of the older cold steels, you would see grime marks, like right in here where the locking area is. And it's lots of times that would cause a little bit of grittiness. But GSM did a really nice job on this one, because I don't see any grime marks anywhere on the blade tank. See what I'm saying? That's the way it should look. So there's nothing for me to do on this one. There's nothing to clean up, no burrs to clean up. This is actually a very well made knife. You know, from factory, you know, you don't always get the very well made knives, because lots of times from factory they won't do the little finishing touches on things that I think lots of times need to be done. Yep, those washers and everything looks good. Very good. So I'm just going to lube it up and put it back together. Sorry folks, there wasn't nothing exciting about this one. Okay, now these screws, they'll hold your lock bar. Let's see if they're one-sided screws. Yep, they are. The pins, I should say, not screws. On these, the smooth side goes in. If you're using this side with the clip side handle, these have little grooves in them. I don't know if you can pick up the little grooves. The groove side is not the side that goes into the handle. On this side with your lock bar and your clip and your back spacer, the part that I did not take apart. These sides have the groove side showing. Now if you pick this up, the stop pin, this is stop pin. This side's smooth. The smooth side goes into this side, and the groove side is the side that's exposed. Lots of times if you don't put things back together the way that they are, then the fitment will be a little bit off sometimes. That's the reason why I'm pointing that out. Because you want to put things back together exactly the way Cold Steel made it. That's the way it's meant to be. Alright, now we're going to use a little Militech grease. I'm not going to use any Loctite. I thought I might need to use some Loctite, but I'm not going to use any Loctite. I like to put a little grease around the pivot. The pivot itself, the pivot pin itself. And then I like to put grease on the washers. Lube up both sides of the washers. Get rid of the excess grease. You don't want a bunch of excess grease because that'll just track dirt and lint. Matter of fact, let me get some of this stuff off. Got a little bit too much. I just want it to be in the pivot area where the washer resides. I don't want it to be everywhere else. Okay. Here goes our bronze phosphor washer that we put lube on. Now we're going to take one of these Teflon washers and we're going to lube that up too. Go ahead and assemble that. Then I like to take a drop of oil, Militech gun oil, put a little bit of oil in there, into the mix. Next will come the blade. And just a touch of grease again. Got a little bit too much everywhere again. go. Next comes Teflon washer. Teflon washer goes against the blade tang. Next comes a bronze phosphor washer. Goes in between the Teflon washer and the handle scale. Then I like to put a little bit right around the area where the washer goes. I like to put a little bit on the pivot for the lock bar, pivot. A little bit on the surrounding areas around the lock bar where it pivots. And a little bit of grease on the leaf spring. The pivot leaf spring. I mean the lock bar leaf spring. There we go. That's all there is to this. That's just a quick tuning up. Like I said, this knife doesn't have any issues, so it doesn't need any severe work or anything like that. Well, this is going back together too easy. I'm not going to put any more Loctite on these because they already have a lot of Loctite on from the factory. This is a T10 Craftsman. And we just tighten this down until it's finger tight. Not even tighten because we haven't put the other screws in yet. Putting the screws in the order that they came out, the holes that they came out of. T6. Just finger tight. Perfect. Okay, now we'll center it out. Right there. Tighten these screws. You'll never torque these screws down. Just tighten them. Make sure all the other ones are tight too. That's a little bit too tight. Loosen up a little bit. Let's try right there. Okay, there we go. Still a little bit too tight. Let's give it a couple rends there. Yeah, I want to loosen up a little bit. T10. See what it's like right there. Still no. Perfect center. Absolutely love this knife. Absolutely love it. I think this is going to turn out to be my favorite holdout. I love my old holdouts, especially the CTS 6HP one, and I love my old Oz 8 one that I've carried all these years. But I really love these handle scales. I love the markings on this blade. I like S35VN. I don't have no problem with S35VN. That's a good steel. It's not CTS 6HP, but you know it's a lot better than the Oz 8. And it is a super steel. This is maybe a little bit more adjustment. Right there. Right there. That's where we're going to leave it. Right there. I love it. No wobble, no up and down, no side to side, no nothing. That's a totally solid knife. Centered perfect. I want it to be a little bit, just a little bit faster. Let me see where it doesn't mess up the centering. No, it still stays there. Okay. There we go. I want the blade to drop. Awesome. Awesome. Let's compare it to one of my old favorites. I love these Voyagers. And the Voyagers are the most affordable one to get, and actually they're really beautiful knives. They're just as nice as any of the older ones, or the bigger ones, and these always, I don't know what it is, they just always function perfectly. I've never had a Voyager that functioned bad, or that was stiff, or was hard to tune, or anything like that. Every Voyager I ever had always tuned perfectly and worked perfectly, and I don't know. I think sometimes less expensive things are better things. And in the case of the Voyager, that's what I sort of feel about the Voyager. It's one of the more inexpensive cold steels, but I think it's also one of the best cold steels. For the price of this one, you can get what? 3 Voyagers? About 3 Voyagers? Now this one is awesome though, because S35VN, G10, and also it's a holdout, so it's a really awesome design for what I use it for. The Voyager can't do what this one does for what I use it for, because the Voyager, when I wear it inside the vest, it imprints. This one doesn't imprint. That's why I like it. And I like it because these are good for everything. Holdouts are good for just about anything you can think of that a knife needs to do. It's not a pry bar though, but it doesn't have a weak tip. It's fairly thick all the way to the tip, but it's a full flat ground blade, so I would not pry with this. I would never pry with any full flat ground blade. Why? Because I think the tips would be the weakest on the full flat grind. As opposed to like something like this, where you have a reinforced tip. I absolutely love the holdouts. Highly recommend them. It's one of my favorites. Well, there you go. Now I'm just going to be breaking it in a little bit. It still needs to be broken in a little bit. It's still a new knife. And it's still, you know, it's not as fast as the older used knife. But I did not need to polish the washers on this one because the washers weren't tarnished. Lots of times when you get cold steel knives, when you take them apart, you find that the washers are a little bit tarnished, and that's when you need to take like 2,500 or 3,000 or higher wet sandpaper and lightly sand them until they're polished in water. Now, this one looked good from the get-go. I don't think this one's been sitting around a long time. That's the reason why they didn't have any tarnish on the washers. Because I got this one as soon as they came out. As soon as they were available, I got this one from Midway. This one and the serrated one. This one's taking the place of my Oz 8 one that I've been carrying for the last, I don't know, 10 years or so. Absolutely love it. I'm debating on whether I want to polish it or not. You know how I like to polish the knives I carry and stuff. I think I want to leave this one totally stock looking. I don't want to polish it. And the reason being is that lots of times, modified knives, they think, you modified it into a switchblade or something that's really easy to open or whatever, which is why you always do, but you don't want to make it look like that. And so, with as paranoid as people have been getting about knives now, law enforcement and everything's been getting about weapons and knives and stuff in California lately. I think I want to just leave this one stock looking. Leave looking like a factory knife, like it's unmodified or anything like that. I think that's how I'm going to roll with this one. I think that's how I'm going to roll with my new, if they ever get here, the Towel Wars. I want to get a Towel War too. I want the serrated and the plain edge Towel War. This one's rocking. You know me, I'm a fidgeter. So I constantly fidget with mine. But that's the way you break them in too, though. Because after a while, they get to the point where it's just like, it'll be acting like it's on bearings. Once it gets totally broken in. Especially after the Militech sits on it for like overnight and soaks into the metal. Then it really gets easy to open and smooth. Yeah, that's nice. I love it. All right, that's it for this one, people. That's it for tonight. I made 2 videos for y'all today. I released this one in the morning. I released the other one tonight. How's that? Peace out, Stiletto.